Alright, welcome to episode 2 of Sherba, where I'm developing an interpreter in Rust. So we ended last episode with a bit of a cliffhanger to see if this plus function compiles. So actually let's see what the compiler says. And some syntax error. Let me see. Alright. Should be simple enough to fix. Wow. And let's place parentheses. Okay, it compiles. Now we are actually gonna want to call this. And so one thing I was thinking about during the episodes that actually this int instruction, I can generalize it to just be a literal instruction. This way I can like embed anything, any kind of value, and don't need to have an instruction for every variant of this enum. It would mean this is actually something like this. See? Right now, we do also need to change this here. I'll just clone it for now. Let's think about performance later. And of course it needs to be able to be cloned. Will this work? Can functions be cloned in Rust like this? Okay, let's maybe just sheet, because I think this one should actually work. Yeah, because we need to actually use it. Do I know on top of my head what the path is? No, so let's look it up. Okay, that's easy enough. Yay! Compiler doesn't complain anymore, and it works. So now we actually want to try out the plus function. So we need a value which is a function which contains an a function and this one should be, can I just pass that? Probably won't work. Probably needs to be a reference to the thing. Right, it wants to be, yeah, it needs to be a reference counter. Right, yeah, and those things have to be boxed. The function and its argument. Yay, we can do arithmetic. This new programming language. Let's see. How much time? Yeah, it was about 10 minutes. So we can do some other fun functions. For example, less than. So I guess I'm gonna have to do a lot of matching to see that the argument is a list. I might at some point do something to well, make this a bit more easy to write. But for now it's fine to do it by hand. I mean, although I really like compact code, I actually don't mind typing that much. I get actually more annoyed if I have to read the same thing again and again, because you never know if there are subtle differences. So I actually do have to pay attention to duplicated code. So how do I want this to work? So basically, okay, let's do it simple. We actually first we will only implement the case that we only have like 2 arguments to this less than comparison data, and we can like generalize it for arbitrary number of arguments. So and for now we will also only consider integers. You mean as a dynamically typed programming language? I do think they will invent some order between types, so that if you have like a list of like values with different types, you can just sort them and not have to worry that you get some error because you're like trying to compare like an int to a string or something like that. I mean, statically typed language, it doesn't really make sense to do that, but if you just doing a scripting language, it works well, I think. I think I can write this a bit shorter and don't have the let binding there. Something like this. Right, I completely wrote this wrong. I first have the specify the value I'm matching one on, and then have the matching arms. Of course, if we don't get to integers, he will panic. But here we're gonna actually have our first error return. Of course, if everything is fine, then you can just return an affirmative result, and otherwise we return an error. Actually, no, I have to rebox it again, I guess. Not like rewrap it. So why don't I just return a bool here? Like, why do I want to actually return like the first argument? The idea is that like this function will be like some sort of guard, so I can just say like which basically just says, okay, pass food true will only if it is less than 5. So that's why I'm returning the first argument here. Here I'm not completely sure what I want to return. I mean, for now I just also do the first argument for testing. it might make sense to just return the first one here too, just to say like, okay, this is like the first argument is like the subject of like the function call. So we just wrap it in either okay or error, basically to say, okay, this is valid or it's invalid, but it's like still like the main thing. But it might also say it makes sense to actually return like the second argument as a sort of, okay, this second argument is the one which well, the first argument didn't pass, basically, this, or maybe just some error message or something, but yeah, for now I'm just gonna return the first argument as well. Okay, let's see if it compiles. Doesn't. Have some braces missing. Let's see. Probably here, yeah. And those are not needed. All right, all right. I wonder, is this primitive enough that this works? Because it would make it life much easier. No. But maybe yes. Actually no, because RC doesn't want to be copied. Okay. All right. So I'm just gonna have to do a bit of cloning. Or do a bit of, because I mean I do have to wrap like all those values into some sort of garbage collection wrapper, and those, well, I also have to clone those, right? So it doesn't actually matter. I can just add some cloning here and here, and I guess those also want to be cloned. Okay, which means I can just test it out like this. Yes, 2 is less than 3, but is 4 less than 3 also? Let's test it out. No, we have an error. Nice. Which means we can start with our next instruction, which is going to be called if. I might actually at some point rename this to something else, maybe to cont or something, if I want to have like a macro called if, which expands into using this, because this only has like an if then else, but I might actually have like an else ifs, implicit ifs in my if, so I will see. Then we have to do some evaluation. this is actually nicer, yeah. I did not expect this to be so simple. Let's see if it's that simple in practice. First, I need to communicate clearly with the compiler. It does seem to be happy about the structure. Let's see. Let's test it. Yes, we get 99. And if I do that, we get 0. Nice. So we do have conditionals. But like, yeah, specifying the code like this is getting really annoying. So I think I can no longer procrastinate on implementing the parser. So in the next episode we are gonna start with the parser, so we can like write something much more smaller, because basically what I want is something like yes, this, which is basically so much smaller and so much easier to read. Okay, see you in the next episode.